I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. I'm your host today, Christian Buckley, joined as always by my co-pilot, my Buryaga, Mike Connors. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Growing out the beard, so I'm really channeling Buryaga and Chewie right now.
Hell yeah. It looks nice.
That's. Thank you. I appreciate it.
How you doing?
How you been, man?
Oh, I'm good. It's hot as hell lately. It's like we're on if Hoth was hot because of the name, you know? Like, that's what it is.
Mustafar. It's like Mustafar out here.
I just, I think I was making a connection in my head. The heat is slowing down the hosting cells right now, and I was like, there's that Family Guy Star Wars Blue Harvest joke about, like, he's like, why do they call it Kolth, right, in Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with right now.
Except, that's... Actually, I don't remember that joke, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Christian, I heard, I don't know if you want me blasting this on the waves here, but I heard you got an Xbox. Are you enjoying that?
I am. It's very cool. I did it for Game Pass. Specifically, I did it for Starfield next year, but I figured I'm not buying a PS5 this year. There's nothing exclusive to PS5 I need immediately. I got a couple $100 burning a hole in my pocket. What do I do with it? Let me just buy an Xbox. I got all these years of stuff I can catch up on, and some exclusives I'm looking forward to. So far it's been nice. There are a lot of Star Wars games available on the old Xbox that I haven't had a chance to play lately. So, like, I have OG Battlefront 2 on PC, but now I can play it on a TV. That's cool.
Just like the old times.
Exactly, yeah. And, like, Complete Saga, and there's a few other things on there that I might pick up in some sales down the line. But it's been cool.
Yeah, definitely a great deal. You're telling me that you've circled out 70 games on your list, so you have quite the repertoire to get through, I guess.
Yes. And, I saw this past weekend Game Pass was trending on Twitter because of just, like, it's a deal, right?
Yeah.
So, little inside the magic for everybody listening to this that is thinking about it, and then we will get to Star Wars, but I've never had Game Pass before, so the deal is your first 3 months are $1. But in that deal, in the fine print, it says any remaining Xbox Live Gold on your account will be converted to Game Pass Ultimate. So I bought 2 years of Xbox Gold, and then I activated the 3-month $1 thing for Game Pass. So now I'm covered on Game Pass Ultimate until, like, November of 2023.
That's insanity. You got such a deal on that.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Xbox, let's go.
So wait, does that work, like, retroactively? Like, what if you go out and you buy gold now? Or can you even buy gold?
You can. I had to look some places for gold right now because they stopped selling 12-month subscriptions regularly, so I had to, like, look.
Gotcha.
But thankfully, like, Newegg had some. But if you've had Game Pass, I don't think that works. But if you could always make a new account. I don't know how married you are to your achievement gamer score, but you could do that.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that. Quite married to that.
Yeah,
it's been 11 years in the making. So,
But I will say this to wrap it all up with a nice bow. Available on there right now is Jedi Fallen Order, and it's the next-gen version, because I believe since last episode, or maybe around last episode, EA Respawn released the free upgrade for Jedi Fallen Order, the PS5 and Xbox Series XS version of the game. So if you have Game Pass, check it out. I'm going to check out the next-gen version. If you don't have Game Pass, if you're on PS5, you own it on PS4, you should be able to download the next-gen version now. So, Fallen Order.
That's pretty cool.
Good time to jump in.
You also get Star Wars Squadrons too, since it comes with EA Play, right? So
yeah,
you can play all the Star Wars games.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they should sponsor us.
They should
for all this advertisement.
Yeah, big fan. But Mike, why don't we dive into From the Jedi Archives, where we pull from the sacred text of Wikipedia to educate each other on some things. You noticed that the library got a bit of an overhaul. You know, Anakin came in, he tore some stuff down. The Empire had to do some rebuilding, restructuring.
Yeah, Joe Costa new sent in some new contractors and stuff, so
Yes.
it's looking a bit different.
Yes. So enlighten us, please. Enlighten the audience and myself. What did you pull from the updated Sacred Jedi text this week?
I have to say, the updated Sacred Jedi text, they do look, it's a lot of a cleaner look than it was previously, so I approve. Anyways, I chose the boy, Quarsh Panaka, Captain Panaka, for the Jedi, from the Jedi Archives. So he was a human male native to the planet of Naboo, and a security forces captain who served the royal house of Naboo as the head of security during the final years of the Galactic Republic. Very much a main figure in Episode 1, Phantom Menace. He's basically like super protective over Padme, and if you read the Queen's Shadow book, you see that that's actually like a pretty major point of contention between Padme and Panaka, is how protective he is over her. So interesting. I always liked him. He was very stern, but seemed wise. And yeah, we love him.
Oh yeah. I remember in the Lego game, the original Lego Star Wars game, he was cool because he was one of the few characters in the Episode 1 roster that could use the grapple gun, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like Padme had it, and everybody else had lightsabers. So he was the other one that you could use the grapple for. He was cool.
Well, yeah, it's because of that scene in Episode 1 where they like
Yeah.
go up the mansion with their grapple guns. I should also say that one of my favorite tracks from the Episode 1 Phantom Menace soundtrack, the score, I should say, is Panaka and the Queen's Protectors. Trust me, if you played it, you'd recognize it. So yeah, great track, great character all around. We love Captain Panaka.
Very nice. I will give it a listen after recording, but Mike, it's funny you pulled from prequels, specifically Phantom Menace, because I also have a Phantom Menace pull.
Great. What is it?
I got TC-14, a silver-plated TC series protocol droid with feminine programming who is manufactured by Cybok Galactica. She served aboard the Trade Federation flagship Sakak, where she frequently received memory wipes that left her permanently confused and with no personality. So
interesting. This is the protocol droid that like greets Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan at the very beginning of the movie, right?
Yes, brings in the T, I believe.
Right, yeah. And is the first to leave after they get gassed. I remember. That's a scene of comedic relief.
yes. I always... It's been a minute since I watched The Phantom Menace, right? But I feel like maybe it was just protocol droids are naturally worrisome, like 3PO, but it seemed like she was caught off guard by the gas, you know? She seemed a little like, oh no, like...
Yeah, true. I mean, I do wonder if that is like, you know, just something about protocol droids, you know? Like, that's just part of their personality. I don't know.
Very interesting.
Well, that was a good pick. I love it.
Thank you. Yes, yours as well. So that wraps up this week's Jedi Archives. So why don't we get into some news? Interesting week. Some cool little updates for some things. First up, I think this is the exciting one probably out of all these. Star Wars Squadrons, the film directed by Patty Jenkins, now has a lead writer. So Hollywood...
That's sick.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said that's sick. Oh,
yeah.
you're explaining it. Sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt.
The Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Matthew Robinson was brought in to write the film, and he's already been working on the script. Some of Robinson's work includes The Invention of Lying, which is a Ricky Gervais comedy, I believe. Love and Monsters, which released last year. Currently writing the sequel to Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt action film. And the Dora live-action film from a couple years ago.
Yes! Woo! No, I'm just kidding. That's cool. I mean, he's got a pretty impressive resume. Those are big budget movies and stuff.
Yeah, and I did a scroll on the IMDb. There wasn't too much else outside of these, but it looked like Robinson's had some history with television as well. So I feel like lately TV writing has been good, so like I know
Yeah.
the Dora credit is funny, but like everything else here seems like it checks out.
Yeah, no, the Dora credit is just kind of funny. But in Joe, all jokes aside, like I said, he does have a very impressive resume. I'm sure he's extremely competent and up for the job.
Hmm.
And it's kind of cool to see some movement happening on this movie because really all we knew about it beforehand was that video of Patty Jenkins like on the tarmac next to like a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Um, but though that was pretty cool, and she kind of like set her expectations for like what she wanted to achieve with the film. Uh, like outside of that, we didn't really know much. So it's cool that you know there are signs, outward public signs that Lucasfilm Disney is working on this.
Yeah, and we will absolutely be seeing more of those because via the recap of the story on Star Wars Newsnet, shout out as always, they did mention that pre-production is expected to start this fall, so shooting can begin sometime next year. It is going to be aiming for 2023, which I think is what we knew before. Pre-COVID, I think some things shifted, and this was the 2023 film, so this is on track, thankfully. And Star Wars should be back in the theaters sooner than later, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about like what our expectations and hopes are for this show, this movie, Christian. But I think it's always worth sort of revisiting real quick.
Mhm.
And I'll kind of spin it in a different way. Um, what's sort of like what type of movie are you like expecting out of this? Are you expecting it to like be kind of like a serious like Rogue One type? Or are you expecting it to be more of like a comedy sort of like Solo was a bit more like comedic in its way. I don't know if you even agree with that assessment, but what do you think?
I think that's fair of Solo. Like, Solo is the most Marvel-y feeling Star Wars movie, I think. Would you say that?
Yeah, sure. It's
Okay.
not a bad thing. It's
No,
just
exactly, yeah, but just
uh,
like that brand of action comedy, right? I think
right.
this is going to be more in line with. I don't think it's going to be easily comparable to any Star Wars thing we've gotten so far. When I hear
Hmm.
Star Wars X-Wing movie, I think Star Wars Top Gun, which does have some drama to
Yeah,
it, but is also very heavily reliant on the spectacle, the action, and the characters, right? So I think that's what I want out of this movie. I just want it to be a thrill ride. I want it to be awesome, like a spectacle. Release it on 4th of July weekend type thing. Like just something
yeah.
wild and cool and fun. That's all I need out of this movie. How do you feel about it?
I think I'm exactly where you are. Like, I want a Star Wars movie that just like doesn't really take itself that seriously. Like, it recognizes where it is and it like still conforms to like the universe and everything, but just sort of like has fun in its like absurdity. And I think like following around like a squadron of X-wing pilots on their various missions is just like something we've never seen before told like as a Star Wars. That's what I'm assuming it's going to be about.
Hmm.
Like, it hasn't been told like on screen, and I think that there's a way to sort of differentiate it from the anthology films that we got previously. So,
Yeah.
the anthology films and the episodic films. So, I kind of want it to be like that summer blockbuster movie, like you're talking about, like just because it's the perfect vessel for like big explosions and stuff. So.
Yeah, like if the entire movie is going for the spectacle and vibe of like the beginning of The Last Jedi and the space invasion ending of Rogue One, great.
Yeah.
Have some stuff on like the command ships in between, some drama, do whatever, but like just make it fun. I really don't need a gripping story out of this. Gripping characters, good moments for sure, but like that's all I need out of this. And I did notice this in the recap as well. Maybe this was out there in the past, but the only thing we know about this Newsnet is saying that it is keeping in mind some of the history of Rogue Squadron via different interpretations we have in Legends, right? Being the book, the games, and stuff like that. But it's going to be taking place farther in the future than any Rogue Squadron thing before. So I think you and I had this conversation as well once, like, is this going to be post episode 9? Which
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think, honestly, if we get cool summer blockbuster post episode 9, just a solid check-in on, like, hey, this is what the galaxy's government is like, and this is Rogue Squadron is running ops across the galaxy. That's all I need story-wise out of this Star Wars thing. Like, that is completely cool with me.
That would be, yeah, it's exactly what I kind of expect to come from Star Wars Squadrons, to be honest with you. When I think about this, like you said, you thought about Top Gun. That's like the first thing I think about too. So not quite a complete replication of it in the Star Wars universe, but I think you could just have a lot of fun with following around, a group of X-Wing pilots. And I do agree with you, having it take place post Episode 9 would probably be the most interesting. So I hope they do that too. I'm excited for this. I think it's a good opportunity for Disney to sort of differentiate Star Wars TV with Star Wars movies. Now that they're starting to like do more with Disney Plus. So yeah, and I think it's just, Star Wars is something that you can do and you can have fun with, and I think seems like that. Hopefully, that's the plan for this.
Yeah, and I will correct this as well. At the moment, I wrote in the doc Star Wars Squadrons. It is the title is Star Wars: A Rogue Squadron. So apologies.
Right.
Retroactively, everything we're talking about, we're not talking about the video game. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Star Wars: Rogue Squadron.
Well, anything left to say on Rogue Squadron, Mike?
No, just bring on some more news. I just want to hear more about it. Hopefully, we can see something from it sometime next year. I'm sure we will.
Sure. The last thing I'll say, I hope we get a trailer at next Celebration, right? And play with the expectation of like the Top Gun theme that like didn't like Van Halen write that or something, like that theme from Top Gun. Do a Star Wars thing that's like has shades of that in there, and I will freak out. Like Top Gun, it's not even one of my favorite movies. It's just a great time. So like, if they can do that in Star Wars, please. Anyway,
I just want to see what X-Wing pilot culture is like. What are they talking about? Like, Battlestar Galactica and all the Viper pilots and their culture that they had. Yeah, let's get some of that going.
Yes, dude, please. Like, give me a mess hall on a starship talking about like, oh man, I really screwed up that last mission, dude. Like, anything like that, please.
Yeah.
So. Or
just like have them comment about like, big things that we saw in like the episode, like the episodic films or something. I don't know. That'd be very, very cool.
So, more on the front of shooting updates and future Star Wars projects, we have a confirmed starting date and location for the beginning of Star Wars Acolyte, the Disney Plus series that is going to be adapting a story at the end of the High Republic, probably close to the beginning of the prequels. And we now know, via Discussing Film, it is going to be shooting in London at the beginning of February 2022. There were further details surrounding the type of shooting they'd be doing, citing they'd be using the Volume Studios, like the stagecraft that was, innovative with Mandalorian. Currently, it's being used by the principal photography for Ant-Man 3, and once that wraps, Acolyte's picking up. So, getting close.
Nice. That's cool. I'm excited that they're using that technology for, stuff outside of just Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But this is really exciting, man.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to throw out there, too, I think James Gunn said he's doing Guardians 3 with the same equipment, so it is cool, yeah.
Oh. But. Yeah, I mean, I assume that they would have used it for a lot of stuff outside of The Mandalorian, so makes a lot of sense. So, but I'm so happy that... Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to ask you, if we're knowing that this show, that's End of the High Republic, pre-Republic, like, do we think we're going to be seeing some Coruscant here with this type of stagecraft? Like, what are you thinking out of this?
I mean, I'm hoping that we see some Coruscant. I was thinking about this actually just by myself. Have we seen any glimpse of Coruscant since the prequels? I don't think we have. I mean, I think we saw maybe Coruscant in a flashback in Rogue One, like one of Jyn Erso's flashbacks, but
Yes.
it's not confirmed. That's I don't know if that's confirmed or not Coruscant, but it's not. I don't even think it wouldn't even count if it was. So I would hope that we see some Coruscant action in here. I know that Colin Teraval, or I don't even know how to say his name. Always messed it up. The former writer for Episode 9 wanted to bring those characters from the sequel trilogy to Coruscant, and had a lot of ideas for that set piece. So I am interested to see if they do that on a wider, more broader scale note. I'm just excited that this is starting to happen, because I really think it's an interesting idea, at least from the teaser information that Disney gave us at their Investors Day meeting. It sounds really interesting, like you said, like exploring the High Republic during this time. And in TV shows you can just get you can get deeper into the nitty gritty of it all. So um, I hope we get to see some Coruscant during the High Republic, just like the stuff that we've been reading about in the High Republic books. I want to see that on the screen.
Yeah, that'd be very, very nice to see. I know you and I are both sort of dancing with the idea that potentially this show is Sheev Palpatine origins. So naturally,
Mm-hmm.
you would expect the grand cityscape of Coruscant. If not, like, we've seen Mandalorian use this set for literal desert planets, So, like, it doesn't have to be a city, but considering the time period, considering that this technology can do what Lucas was doing in the 2000s, but with blue screens and have it live on set, like, I'm sure Filoni's like itching to get Coruscant as an actual on-set thing to just be there in it, Like, I'm sure that's on the list.
I'm sure they've already created it. I'm sure it's already like a preset they can load into the load into the stagecraft.
Yeah.
They could just be like, yeah, let's head over to Coruscant now. No, I mean, I hope so, man. Like, we've really only seen it, like you said, in the cartoons and everything. Dave Filoni's championed Coruscant and everything in Clone Wars and Bad Batch even. Oh, I don't know if they went into the Bad Batch, but um, so yeah, I just really am excited for this show. I'm just excited for more Star Wars shows in general. So the fact that they're actually starting to do something, just like Star Wars Rogue Squadron, makes me happy. And February 2022 is really not that far away. So I'm not sure if we should expect this in 2022, maybe early
Yeah.
2023 or something
Yeah.
like that.
I think that's a safe bet. Definitely not next year, just to be safe. There was one other thing I wanted to pick your brain on regarding Acolyte in the last week. I think this came out around when we recorded last week, but the showrunner was saying that she has in the writer's room somebody who either isn't a fan, hasn't seen, or doesn't like Star Wars. I forget the exact thing, but
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw that too.
I saw a lot of people getting very scared and upset about that. So I would like to hear how you feel about news like that, because I think we'll probably agree, but I'm curious how you think.
Well, I mean, I would be a little nervous if like this writer like didn't at least make the like went into the writer's room and was just like, hey, like I don't like Star Wars, right? But never made a chance or never tried to like understand it, like put their own personal feelings aside, just try to understand it. But at the end of the day, like I don't think a writer necessarily has to have a love for something to write about it. I think it certainly may make the writing a bit better, but this person, these people inside the writer's room, they're going to be checked by other people who do love Star Wars and do understand it. So I don't really think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. Like I said, though, I think it would be wise of this person, I guess, to put their own personal feelings aside and maybe try to understand it from a fan's perspective, and I'm sure that's what they do. They're a writer on a pretty big TV show. You know, writers write about stuff they don't like all the time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
So I feel slightly differently. Like, I think it's honestly a good idea, and I wish more properties did this more often, because I think you have a tendency to, when you hire people that are already huge fans, I'm not comparing writers to fan fiction writers, because, like, obviously people who enjoy a thing can write a thing well. Ryan Johnson loves Star Wars, and he, I think, wrote a very well written movie. But having a team of writers and having somebody who can offer a perspective that is, again, like, removed from everything revolving around Star Wars, I think leads to new exciting ideas. Yeah, right? Like, you have somebody who can step back from it all and be like, hey, here's this idea that somebody who is so ingrained in the lore and world of Star Wars never would have considered, because it just doesn't seem like it would fit, but they could make it fit, right? Like, I think that is very valuable. And in terms of strictly writing a show, making a show, I think that's a great asset to have. And I think people just got upset because they don't like it when things aren't exactly the way they want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like a lot of these people would be surprised, to hear, like I'm sure this happens a lot, you know what I
Yeah, and like,
do you think that every single writer on WandaVision is like like a massive Marvel fan? Like, probably not, right?
And
I don't know.
Slightly different also, but like, it seems like a lot of people liked Bill Burr when he was in Mandalorian. He hates Star Wars, or at least he did. I think he's different on it now, but like, he hated Star Wars, and that's why he was cast. So like,
right.
I think there's absolutely a value to that,
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I wasn't trying to come off negative. I do think you're right, that like having people with different opinions opens up new ideas. I guess more was of what I was saying, and going back to that, like, I do think there is value in like having a writer's room filled with and not everybody has to be a fan of the property that they're writing for. The fact that there almost certainly are people in that writer's room that are a fan of the property, and that this stuff has to go through like a lot of checks. Like, Dave Filoni's looking at most of this stuff, right, just to check to see if it's all the continuity and everything. Paul Hidalgo and everybody, the story group. I wouldn't be worried about the sanctity of the intellectual property. Like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be Star Wars no matter what. There are going to be people there to check if this person or people were to go too far. But like you said, I think it's good to have people who have different perspectives. People just, like, especially in the Star Wars community, and oh boy, we'll get to that, like to get their knickers in a bunch. That's for sure.
Yes.
For over stupid stuff that doesn't matter. People just need to like chill out, honestly.
Yeah. Well, before we get to that, why don't we talk a bit about the new line of Del Rey Essential Legends that are being added to this collection we talked about recently. I think just last week.
These are cool.
Yeah, these are the very nice reissues of Legends novels that have some brand new cover art. We talked about the first line a couple months ago, I think. And I believe that they were just released, like the Mace Windu book, the first of the Thrawn, Timothy Zahn books, stuff like that. So we now know that there will be a new line releasing later this year. 4 more books from Legends now being brought into the Essential Legends banner with new cover art by Tracy Ching. These books are Rogue Squadron, timely, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command, which are books 2 and 3 of the original original Thrawn trilogy, not Tron. And Rule of 2, the second in the Darth Bane duology. So
that's pretty cool. I'm looking at the covers right now. They're very cool art. I think I like the Rogue Squadron one the best, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like a red background with the profile of a Rebel pilot in his helmet, and there are like white streaking X-wings going across it. Very cool. Looking at these make me want to like read them. I've never read them, so Yeah, this is pretty sick.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like the line of books. I haven't picked up any of these yet. Potentially down the line I will, but I think it's cool. I think it is nice, and for the fans of Legends, it's not like these are being canonized or anything, but it is elevating them to, I guess, show they're still worthy of reading. You know, like for the people who, like me, are overwhelmed with how much new canon material there is, and is like, you know what, not canon, no time for it, but they're spotlighting it, so it's nice.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's become there's a lot of saturation with the canon stuff that it's hard to go back to the legend stuff. But one of these days, I want to read these, and hopefully, I'll be reading them from one of these copies because they are beautiful.
Yeah, they look very, very nice. These additions to the collection are going to be releasing on September 7th, and Del Rey did say that spring 2022 we will see the Essential Legends collection expand again. So presumably this is all we're getting for 2021, but next year there will be another batch of Essential Legends. What will that contain? I don't know. Maybe that Revan book, who's to say, but we'll see.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll let you know when it happens.
Absolutely. Well, we gotta let our listeners know about this whole thing, Mike, because we know.
I know. It's almost like I don't want to talk about it.
I know. We don't have to talk about it long, but there is
Okay.
a discussion that's been having some spotlights recently surrounding Star Wars merch, Disney Star Wars. You know, we got the Book of Boba Fett coming up this holiday. And recently Lego put out a new, like a reprint, new reissue of whatever, a few sets. One of them is Boba Fett's ship. It is labeled as such. And
Right.
I would say that there is the majority of the dissenters who do not think this is okay. The majority of them are the people you expect. Because the canon name for Boba Fett's ship is the Slave One. Now, there are layers here, but I think the immediate reaction I saw a lot online is woke Disney once again trying to ruin Star Wars, decanonizing something, rewriting, retconning. My ship is the Slave One. It's like...
Yeah. Kathleen Kennedy's,
Yeah.
Her dirty hands are changing Star Wars once again.
Mm-hmm.
Just kidding.
So, I think there are things to say about this. Do you want me to run through my perspective on it first, Mike, or do you want to say how you're feeling?
No, I mean, yeah. Why don't you tell the class how you feel
Okay.
about this? Because I think there are, like you said, there are layers to this.
Yeah, so I think the conversation that I've seen the most that I believe is that there are, like, Mike, right now, can you name 3 iconic Star Wars ships that are not the Slave One?
The Razor Crest, the Millennium Falcon, and I think the Tantive 4.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not the best person to ask.
Sure. Like, out of those, if you asked a random kid or a parent, which one do you recognize? It will be the Falcon, right? And if you ask this question to a more casual fan, it's like, oh yeah, Millennium Falcon, like the X-Wing, the TIE Fighter, like, it is branding. That's what this is. It's not trying to hide away from things. Like, yeah, I would say, like, when we talked about the Slave One showing up in Mandalorian last year, it was like, it felt weird saying that because I hadn't said it in years because, like, Boba Fett's just been dead. But, like, I think it's people making a mountain out of a molehill. I think if you look on the LEGO website, there is the Millennium Falcon, Poe Dameron's X-Wing, which has a name. It's Black One. We have the Bad Batch's ship, as a Lego set. That ship has a name. I can't tell you what it is, but they've said it on the show. Like,
Yeah.
I think Boba Fett...
I think it's the Marauder.
Okay, yeah, see, like, the Bad Batch, Poe Dameron, Boba Fett are all more iconic, I think, in terms of name recognition than the name of their ship. That's why there was the rebranding. And coincidentally, it's also potentially taking away some heat that they could get, potentially, for the ship being called the Slave One, which I don't think anybody was up in arms about. But, like, it's marketing. It's a Lego set. That's the way it's working here. And that's how I see it.
Honestly, all right. So, in all honesty, Christian, like, I see where you're coming from, and I think you're probably right. It makes a lot of sense. It's not something that I really kind of considered previously. I was not one of the people who were like extremely up in arms about it.
Yes.
I was one of the people, and this is my perspective. You kind of changed my perspective, but this is my original perspective. Like, I saw this news and I was just kind of like, why? Like, is anybody like really offended by that? Because that's the first thing that my mind jumped to was like, oh, they're probably doing it because it could be construed as like offensive in some way. Like, Slave One is not like the most PG name of all time, and it has a lot of negative connotations, absolutely. But like it's also the ship of like a notorious galactic fictional bounty hunter. So, to me, it kind of fits. So that's where I was coming from. I was just kind of like, what is the point? But I do think that you sort of uncovered part of the point. I don't think, listening to your analysis of it, like, I think you're totally right. Like, I don't necessarily think that they were doing it because of like people were pissed off about the name. And because of like they were afraid that they were going to catch flack for calling Boba Fett's ship the Slave One. You're definitely right. It's just that like I wonder if they're going to continue using the name like in the book of Boba Fett. Is he going to say like get on the Slave One, or is he going to say like get on my ship? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that it really matters.
Yeah,
because
it
at the end of the
doesn't,
day,
right?
it's just the name of the ship.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really matter at all.
And
it's just like interesting to me, I guess.
yeah, I think there's definitely I completely see what you're saying. And when I saw the news as well, I was like, interesting. I get it, makes sense, but like I think it's tricky. And I think another thing I saw too was like nobody, I think in canon, aside from the Clone Wars animated show, has actually vocally said Slave One about the ship. Like, in Attack of the Clones, in Empire, in Return of the Jedi, the Boba Fett appearances, in Mando, I don't think they ever call it Slave One. I think in the animated series, in Clone Wars, they do refer to it as that, but like, again, nobody knows the name of this show, this ship outside of us, Mike. Like, the hardcore, I think, or like the enthusiasts know the name of the ship. Like, I have never in my life, I love Poe. He's one of my favorite characters of the sequels. I never knew it was called the Black One. I never knew that was the name of his X-Wing. I thought it was Poe Dameron's X-Wing. Like,
I literally didn't even know that till right now.
Yeah,
so
so
there
like,
you go.
And it's a trend among Lego things, right? Like, Luke's X-Wing, what is that, red whatever? Like, I think it's
Red 5. I think.
Thank you. I knew that was his call sign, but yeah, man, I think it really is just, this is branding. Coincidentally, it also might avoid some flack, but it's not being rewritten and renamed in previous products, because like it was never really officially named that, I guess, in the George Lucas film series. Like,
yeah,
I think
no, I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Like, it's just like, I didn't mean to cut you off, Christian, but it's
I
just
was done. I was rambling.
This, to the people, to the people who are upset, oh my gosh, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, the toxic Star Wars fans on the internet. They strike once again. The fandom menace strikes once again, and completely blowing something out of proportion for no reason whatsoever. It literally is the name of a ship. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. Like, they can call whatever the heck they want. It's not like it changes, the look of the ship. The ship looks badass, like, and he's still gonna do badass stuff with his ship. They're just gonna call it something different. And like, if you want to call it Slave One for the rest of your life, like, no one's gonna stop you. Like, to me, like, because I'm like a nerd, I'll probably always think in my head first, like, that's the Slave One.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, if they want to change it, they can change it. I understand why. Christian, like, you definitely opened my perspective with your analysis of it. I think that's definitely it. Nobody knows the name except for us and a few other people. Just kidding, lots of other people. But yeah, just like literally at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So these people online who are like upset about it, find something else to do.
Yeah, because I think it's easy for the Star Wars fandom to get caught up in this, right? But like, how many million people, Mike, do you think enjoy Star Wars? Like, just casually, at least, like, they said they love the movies, they grew up with them, they love them, they watch them, they really like Star Wars. How many million?
Probably hundreds of millions.
Okay.
Like, there are billions of people on the planet. I would say, like, maybe I don't know, 100 million.
Okay. So let's just say, 10 million. I feel like there's a lot of people. Let's say 10 million people are actively fans of Star Wars.
I have no
right?
idea. I'm so bad at that.
Yeah. I think 1 out of every 10, maybe, would know that the Slave One is the name of Boba Fett's ship and doesn't just call it Boba Fett's ship, right? So I think we covered it. I think it was an overreaction, but I'm probably going to still call it that too. That's the name of the ship. I've always known it that way. Or offhand, I'll just say, yeah, it's Boba Fett's ship, right? Like, I've said that in the past. Like, nothing changed.
Oh yeah. Everybody who's upset, I'm sure at one point in their life was like, oh yeah, it's Boba Fett's ship.
Yeah, man.
Like it's not that big of a deal. Like,
so,
like I said, you're still gonna see it look cool. So don't worry.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Fetts, let's move on to this week's episode of The Bad Batch. We got some interesting developments on the lore front this week. I guess starting off, Mike, before we talk about, I'd say, the talking points of the episode, overall, past couple weeks, seems like you felt like we're on an upswing. Did you think this continued that upswing?
Definitely. We'll talk about the specifics in a moment, but I would say, like, overall, my general impressions of this episode really solidified for me that few episode lull between like episodes 2 and 5. I would say that was just that was temporary. Since then, it's become a lot more interesting. This episode featured a really cool set piece, in my opinion. Lots of cool like cinematography. It's kind of weird to say that for like an animated show, but I was like kind of glued to the television. And yeah, I dig this episode a lot, to be honest with you. What did you think? Broad strokes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really enjoyed it. I was surprised in the final moments of the episode. I was like, dang, this is like one of the ones I've been more invested in this season so far, and it was surprising because the Bad Batch were barely in it. It was an Omega episode, right? And
yeah,
it was her running for her life, essentially, from these 2 bounty hunters on this abandoned facility, and it was just really riveting, and it looked beautiful. It was a really great set piece, reminded me of Cloud City. It was like a really, really cool Star Wars-y 20 minutes, and I was a fan.
Yeah, it gave me like really big well, I guess we can kind of start talking about some of the details of the episode. This basically features Omega basically trying to run away from Cad Bane, and then eventually also Fennec Shand.
Mm-hmm.
Cad Bane is like working for the Kaminoans, trying to get Omega for their science purposes, because she's super pure with the Jango Fett DNA, which we learned this episode. And so she escapes when they get to this really cool Cloud City like planet, like you said, Christian. And Fennec shows up, who is also working for one of the Kaminoans, who is like trying to double cross the other Kaminoans. And Cad Bane and Fennec Shan do some pretty sick fighting with like Omega kind of caught in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Basically, a great freaking episode.
For sure, yeah. I really did enjoy it a lot. Omega, I think, is continuing to just be a really good addition to this era of Star Wars because out the gate, I think she was set up to be this very pivotal, important character in this show, right? And I remember week one, everyone's like, she's Force sensitive, I swear, she's Force sensitive. But, like, no, she is just the lifeline to continuing the clone army, essentially. Like, the biomaterial of Jango Fett has degraded to a degree where we need a substitute, and it is either the Alpha or the Omega, and Omega is the Omega, right? That 100% fully accurate clone, genetically. And I think what I saw a lot of people discuss this week is the implication of the Alpha here, and the Alpha clone is Boba Fett. So technically, Boba Fett and Omega, brother and sister, which I think is very interesting and has me excited about where we could go in the future.
That is interesting. You know, I never thought of it like that. They well, not only are they brother and sister, they are like literally the same person.
Yeah, like twins, brother and sister twins.
What? True. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. What am I saying? I don't have a basic. This is I host a Star Wars podcast. I don't have a biology degree, so I have no basic understanding of how any of this works. But yeah, no, that is really cool. Honestly, I didn't even realize I didn't even make the connection that because I guess I missed them saying that Boba Fett was like the Alpha because Alpha and Omega, that kind of that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I just didn't even, I guess I didn't catch that when I watched it for the first time. So thank you for bringing that up, Christian.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I think the scene where it happens is when before she's looking for her communicator, I think, when we cut to the Marauder and Tech is like talking and Wrecker and Hunter are like, where is she? And Tech has like his data pad and he's like, okay, well, this is why they want her. She's the Omega clone of him. There's one other one. It's an Alpha, and they refer to him as Boba. So that was the scene. But yeah, it's a cool revelation.
Okay, gotcha.
We're getting a show about Boba Fett later this year. Is there a chance we see an older Omega come into his life or something? Like, I think that could be really cool to just connect that gap.
It could be really cool. I guess it just all depends on like where Omega, like where she goes from here,
Yeah.
And honestly, like there are many times where I'm like, is she going to survive? She does seem to get herself into some seriously precarious situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, a lot of people were expecting her to be Force sensitive, but no, she's just Boba Fett, basically.
Yeah, which I think is cool. I think after Mando Season 2 sold on the elevation and the worthiness of the Fetts being the badasses people think they are. So I'm excited to see more on that front, especially through Omega as well. But yeah, I thought that was a cool revelation. We can talk about Fennec in this episode as well, but I'll also say interesting tie there again, because we see Fennec Shan have sort of a bond with Omega in this show, and we know in Mandalorian she's Boba Fett's right hand, like she's there for Boba Fett, so she's working with two Fetts. So I think that could also be another thing of like, hey, maybe we do get some leeway on the connections here, and we can make it all fit nicely.
Yeah, I mean, Fennec Shan being in the Book of Boba Fett would be is the perfect conduit for bringing a live action Omega back into the Star Wars universe. That'd be pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, like talking more about this episode, like it is really cool to see Cad Bane back again, man. Like just coming back from watching like the Clone Wars and everything. Like he was a pretty cool character in that, but like he has like a more ruthless, like an even more ruthless vibe. I feel in the Bad Batch that I am enjoying a lot. He's a pretty cool character to have on the show.
And I do really like how he's really cranked up to that whole like Western black hat bad guy sort of vibe. I think he fits that well. Obviously, Star Wars has Western influences, and being very on the nose with Cad Bane, I think works because he's just got that atmosphere to him. And seeing him and Fennec basically fighting the entire episode over who gets Omega, I thought was fun and very engaging, and I liked their whole fight. Like you said, the choreography of that fight was really engaging, entertaining, very cool seeing them use their wits against each other. All the gadgets and the backdrop of this cloud city was very, very cool.
Honestly, like that, it was pretty sick. Like there wasn't a lot of dialogue, to be honest. Like, except like like you said, Fennec and Omega had a bit of a, Fennec definitely seems to have a soft spot for Omega, which is interesting. Cad Bane not so much, but yeah, the fighting between Cad Bane and Fennec Shand was pretty sick. Like it was just like very well choreographed. They definitely were like very equal match for each other, and it was cool to see Cad Bane sort of like get the crap kicked out of him.
Yeah.
And I also always loved always loved Toto 360. I'm pretty sure Seth Green voices Toto. So
yeah, he does. That was a funny one. I always forget that he voices Toto, and then hearing him like when he was sitting on the floor trying to put his leg back on, I was like, "That's Seth Green." Like, it's funny.
Yeah, totally Seth Green.
Another thing that happens in this episode is as Omega is lurking through these halls, right? She finds this room where she can boost the signal so the crew can come pick her up, and in this room there are some test tubes, right? And I believe the implication of this entire facility is that it is a abandoned Kaminoan cloning facility. I think that's what it is here, because the doors were the exact same as the doors on Kamino, like the triangular, rounded doors that we see since Attack of the Clones.
I think Omega says that like they look very similar to one of the Kaminoan doors or something.
That as well, yeah, and it was the meeting place for the Prime Minister's handler to pick up Omega and make the transaction with Cad Bane. So presumably the Kaminoans know of this place. I took it as abandoned cloning facility. The room she goes in with these test tubes has some interesting looking things in there, and we hang on a cut of one of them for a strange amount of time, and it looks oddly head-like Snoke. Right, like it looks like Snoke again.
Yeah, it did kind of look like Snoke, but eventually, in this room that Omega finds herself in, she like breaks one of them open, and this like thing that was floating in the tanks comes and falls on top of Fennec Shand. And at that point, it didn't look as Snoke-like to me. I don't know how you feel about it, though.
I think it could potentially be, because I do think when we specifically see the head of the being in that thing, it is absolutely calling to Snoke, but the one that spilled out on the floor, I think it could be a case of these are just failed. You know, like we saw the failed Snoke clones in Rise of Skywalker. It took a long time for them to perfect this, so I think there's a chance that maybe this is like very early rudimentary Snoke attempts. I know in Legends, at least, Emperor Palpatine has like hidden cloning facilities, right? And I think maybe that might be something that is in line with his logic for Rise of Skywalker, making the Snoke clones. So this could be again just planting those seeds, but definitely I saw that. I thought Snoke for sure, and I'm glad you did too.
I definitely thought Snoke as well. I mean, I feel like it's just one of those things that as Star Wars fans, we're sort of expecting the answer to it. We're sort of just like wondering when are we going to get an answer as to like how Snoke was created and like what's up with all the other Snokes in the tube on Exegol in Episode 9, right? Like what the heck's up with that? I feel like that needs to be addressed. It needs to be answered, and who other to do it than Dave Filoni? And I do think you're probably right. I do think he's likely just planting the seeds for answering those questions in the Bad Batch. And if this is not, if this is not Snoke, another theory that I was thinking of was like, do you think maybe the Kaminoans were testing their cloning technology like on themselves or something? Like I was thinking really dark about it, like because they also sort of looked Kaminoan like, right?
That was my other option.
So I was sort of thinking like, what if they were sort of testing it on themselves? Yeah. So, testing all their technology on themselves or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my other thing. I was like, this is either a Snoke thing or these are clones of Kaminoans. And now I'm wondering, Mike, if Snoke is part Kaminoan, and maybe that's why he's that tall and he's that lanky. Maybe that's it. Maybe we found a critical piece here. Maybe because clearly Snoke is not a clone of Palpatine. He's a creation, right?
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
maybe Snoke, for that winning recipe, we got like a shot of Sheev, a shot of Grogu, and like a half cup of Kaminoan. Maybe that's the recipe for a Snoke.
A little bit of Grogu blood, like
Yeah.
a little bit of Omega, a part of the camera. Yeah. That's the recipe. No, I gotta have that Kaminoan salt. It's from the water.
Yes.
They take it out of the water. Yeah, I mean, honestly, while I was saying that, I did think the same thing. I was like, well, Supreme Leader Snoke kind of does look like a Kaminoan if you did, a lot of plastic surgery to him.
Yeah.
So I think like it's pretty like it's a pretty good theory, to be honest. It's a good conspiracy theory. As of right now, I think that's my headcanon.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether or not we'll see that to be true, whether or not we'll see that be true is another story. So he definitely looks a lot like a Kaminoan.
Yeah, like if we eventually reach a point where, because of his appearance and because of his ridiculous level of power, that Snoke is just like a Frankenstein's monster, that would honestly make me like Snoke more. Like if he's this amalgamation of all these other powerful beings in Star Wars, like that could be cool, and I might like him more when I rewatch the sequel trilogy eventually, and that's what the shows and expanded material is supposed to be doing. So, bolstering the main stuff. So.
Or maybe like when Palpatine sort of like took it over, during the prequel era, maybe he started to like plant the seeds of, hey guys, here's a little bit extra cash. Why don't you make a Force-sensitive clone for me?
Yeah.
So
there's absolutely a chance. So the only other thing that stood out to me this episode that I thought was just funny was when Omega was doing her escape, right, in the pod, and then I guess she got caught in like a tractor beam on one of the ships or something. I was like, yeah.
I was so confused.
I was like, oh, it's Finnick.
I was like, how the heck
right?
did like now like the Bad Batch is like just there all of a sudden? I don't know.
Yeah, that was the one thing where I was like, oh, episode's over now. Okay, cool. Like that was it. That's the end. So that caught me off guard. But overall, I'm with you. I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm excited for next week. So
very excited for next week. Yeah, we're getting to the end. Next week's episode 10. I believe that there's only 16 episodes. So I've been enjoying it overall. Great episode. Really looking forward to it. It's heating up, baby.
Oh, hell yeah. The show is ramping up to a big finale, I'm sure. Of course, we'll be covering it every week, talking about it, speculating as well. But until next week's episode, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Shun2D2, as well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks on the playlist for the video version of Jedi Knights. You can find all of our episodes as alongside the other podcasts on the channel like Excelsior, Gamescast, Long Play Club, all in their individual playlists. If you want the audio version of this show, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you can rate or review on that platform, it would be appreciated because it helps the show out a lot. And if you want updates, up-to-date releases for all the episodes of the show, at Jedi Knights JC on Twitter. If you want to support the shows on a monetary level, you can do that on patreon.com/joyclicks, the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gets you producer credit on this show and every show we do, like Chris Sakas, Aaron Easton, and Charles Applin. So thank you very much, and that is it for this week's Star Wars content. Again, I think we felt this way last year, but surprise, there's been enough week to week. It's the summer, there's no real big Star Wars stuff in sight, so I feel like we're due for a Book of Boba Fett drop in terms of posters or trailer pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I would expect sometime. I mean, it gotta be before October, you know. That's my thought. So, you know, that's quickly approaching. We're gonna see something relatively soon. It's only a matter of time. That's what I said.
I think you're right. Hopefully, I think realistically and in my heart, I would love to see something before August. If I'm really dreaming, next week would be tight. But like, do you think like September is probably the safe bet, like Mando season 2?
I think. Yeah, I think probably September, early to mid September is probably when we'll see something. But we'll have to see. Hopefully sooner. I'd be down.
Yeah. So we'll wait and see. But until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.